It's a lovely day for racing here at Willow Springs as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race.
David Zahn has a best lap time of 1:19.552.
With just 1 minute left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations.
David Zahn has a best lap time of 1:19.552.
Adam is on his practice out lap. It's a lovely day for racing here at Willow Springs as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Adam is on his practice out lap.
David just posted a 4:56.007 crossing start finish. David Zahn has a best lap time of 1:19.552.
With just 0 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. It's a lovely day for racing here at Willow Springs as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Adam is on his practice out lap. Adam is getting to grips with the ASRL T70 MkII Spyder in this practice session. It's a lovely day for racing here at Willow Springs as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. The anticipation is high as the drivers line up for the qualifying session at Willow Springs.
The pressure is on to set the fastest lap times. Will it push these drivers to focus or to failure?
You can feel the tension building. David Zahn is out on track and getting ready to push for his qualifying time.
David Zahn is keeping his head down through Rabbit's ear.
If Dave listens closely, the sounds of cheering fans should just barely be audible over the roar of the engine.
David Zahn is driving through Budweiser balcony.
The adrenaline is pumping. Sketty is on his out lap, warming up the tires and getting ready to put in a fast lap time.
Patience is key in these early moments, Hal, but I have a feeling Sketty is going to make it count.
That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through repass pass.
Sketty has completed his outlap. It's all about strategy in these early moments. David Zahn is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run and get everything just right.
David Zahn is looking relatively composed going through Rabbit's ear. David Zahn appears focused and prepared driving through turn 5. Sketty is on his out lap. Sketty is expertly commanding that car through the sweeper.
There's a great spot near here to kick back with a cold drink and enjoy the beauty of it all.
As Sketty completes the outlap, he will be hoping there's enough space on track to fully attack on the flying lap.
Malero will be looking to use this first hot lap to set a solid time in the standings.
Absolutely. Malero is showing the world what he's made of.
Malero is working his way through Rabbit's ear. Malero is driving through turn 5.
I have always loved this section of the track.
Malero is 0.8 up driving through turn 9.
All we can do now is wish Malero luck as the start-finish line approaches.
Malero completes that lap in his ASRL T70 MkII Spyder, putting him in P1.
There are just over 10 minutes left in this qualification session.
Sketty is in the green by 0.17, making his way through Rabbit's ear.
If Sketty gets greedy, this delta could go from green to red in the blink of an eye.
Sketty is currently up 0.68 going through turn 5. Sketty is keeping his head down through turn 9.
The ASRL T70 MkII Spyder is indeed a sweet-ass looking ride.
Sketty will be happy, with a time good enough for third in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 0.518 gap to pole.
Sketty appears focused and prepared, driving through Rabbit's ear. Sketty is expertly commanding that car through Budweiser balcony.
David Zahn does not look to be improving on this lap. Ada, any thoughts on ways to improve?
He'll need to put together a perfect lap, hitting every apex and pushing the car to the limit without going over it.
David Zahn is down 0.23 seconds on the way through Monroe Ridge.
Being in the green and maintaining it is hard enough, but making up lost time is almost impossible.
Adam is now up 0.56. Adam is driving through turn 9 and is up 0.8.
This is where drivers have to decide to push for more or just try to maintain it.
Adam is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:18.495.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
Malero is up 0.23. Malero is working his way through turn 5. Malero is now up 0.7 in turn 9. Malero is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:18.126. David Zahn currently has 1.234 of a gap to match P1. Ada, any thoughts on ways to improve?
Every driver needs something different. How? Some drivers excel when they push harder, while other drivers benefit more from relaxing and being in a flow state.
David Zahn will be happy, with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session. Simon of the Desert has improved by 0.41. Simon of the Desert is 0.28 up, driving through the Omega.
There's no guarantee that Simon can maintain this delta through the rest of the lap.
Simon of the Desert is driving through turn 5.
The action and glory drivers have lived here at turn 5 is truly historic.
Simon of the Desert is keeping his head down through turn 9.
This track has many great straights and corners, but this one is especially good.
There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session.
That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through Budweiser balcony.
To see the best action, you can't go wrong here at Budweiser balcony.
David Zahn has found an extra 0.17. David Zahn is in the green by 0.21, making his way through the Omega.
If Dave looks at that delta too much, it may end up being a distraction, and all that time he found may be lost.
Simon of the Desert is in the green by 0.16. Simon of the Desert is expertly commanding that car through Repass Pass.
This is such a great track. I need to make it back here more often.
Simon of the Desert will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session.
David Zahn has improved by 0.14 up through Rabbit's Ear. David Zahn is looking relatively composed going through Budweiser balcony.
It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Kevin Lekmansky is nailing both.
Kevin Lekmansky is currently up 0.79 going through the Omega.
All we can do now is wish Lekmansky luck as the start-finish line approaches.
David Zahn will be happy, with a time good enough for 3rd in this qualifying session. Kevin Lekmansky is on his first flying lap.
Kevin Lekmansky is driving through the sweeper.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
Kevin Lekmansky has just completed a lap in 1:18.029. Let's see if he can improve on that time further.
This is what it's all about. Ryan Wilson is putting everything he's got into this qualifying session.
Let's see if he can put a good marker down.
Ryan Wilson has completed his first flying lap in 1:17.240. A solid performance from David Zahn, currently holding down P5. However, with the session coming to a close, he'll need to find that extra bit of speed to move up the grid. David Zahn is now up 0.71 in turn 9.
If Dave gets greedy, this delta could go from green to red in the blink of an eye.
And there goes Adam, currently in P2. He's shown great skill and consistency so far, but with a few minutes left, there's still a chance to improve on that time. Adam is keeping his head down through the sweeper.
Fuel, fumes, fans, and fights, the sweeper has it all.
A strong showing from Kevin Lekmansky as he's currently in 3rd. With the session drawing to a close, he'll need to dig deep and find that extra burst of speed to improve. That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through Rabbit's Ear.
Don't forget to check out the views near Rabbit's Ear, they are fantastic.
What a performance from Simon of the Desert, currently in 7th on the grid. It's a good spot for now, but other drivers are trying their hardest to put in a better time and push him down the order. It's an impressive showing by Kevin Lekmansky, currently in 3rd. He's showcased his talent, but we'll need to find those crucial extra tenths to climb higher.
You're absolutely right, Hal. Kevin's current position of third reflects his strong qualifying performance. Now, he'll need to strategize to capitalize on this starting position.
Kevin MkII will be happy, with a time good enough for third in this qualifying session. It's a very still day here at Willow Springs, as we're getting ready to get things underway. Ryan Wilson will be looking to convert his pole position into a win.
The pressure's on now. Let's see if any of the other drivers can challenge for this spot at the start.
Starting on the front row gives Adam the best possible chance at challenging for the lead.
He can't count his chickens before they've hatched. There is a long way to go.
Kevin MkII lines up in third place as the engines rev and the race begins.
He's going to have to be quick out of the blocks to keep up with the top performers.
Malero will begin the race from the fourth spot on the starting grid.
Malero will be ready to show what he's made of.
Starting from the fifth position on the grid, we have David Zahn.
David will be expecting to bring home solid points.
It's Sketty, sitting comfortably in sixth.
It's not always easy to get the ASRL T70 MkII Spyder this high up the starting grid.
Simon of the Desert is going to be starting from seventh.
Don't count Simon out yet. He's got the skills to pay the bills.
Willow Springs International Motorsports Park, commonly referred to as Willow Springs, is located in Willow Springs near Rosamond, California, about 80 miles north of Los Angeles. It is the oldest permanent road course in the United States. Construction began in 1952, with the inaugural race held on November 23, 1953. The main track is a 2.5-mile-long road course that is unchanged from its original 1953 configuration. The elevation changes and high average speeds make it a favorite of many road racing drivers. There are 7 tracks at Willow Springs. The largest and most well-known is Willow Springs International Raceway, commonly referred to as Big Willow. Other racing facilities include the Streets of Willow, a 1.8-mile road course, the Horse Thief Mile, the Speedway at Willow Springs, a 1/4-mile paved oval, Willow Springs Kart Track, the Playpen, a 1/4-mile paved training track, and the Walt James Stadium, which includes a clay oval and paved oval. Efforts by fans resulted in the state of California declaring Willow Springs International Raceway as a California Point of Historical Interest in 1996. The race has begun, full throttle ahead. This first lap is crucial, as drivers need to establish their position early on.
With adrenaline running high, some drivers may take unnecessary risks. Staying patient and knowing when to make a move is essential for a strong start.
All the drivers will be trying to take advantage of the pack whilst they're still bunched up. Settling into a rhythm is going to be crucial here. As the tires come up to temp, their available grip is changing, and the drivers that manage this transition best are likely to make progress through the field.
The drivers are walking a fine line during the first lap melee as everyone tries to establish themselves. It's easy for inexperienced racers to blow it in T1.
As the drivers get this race underway, let me give a shout out to the admin team at ASRL for making this all possible. Heroes one and all.
The drivers will be jostling for the best position. How? Some of them may not make it to the second lap in one piece.
I think passing is going to be difficult today here at Willow Springs, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get on.
I for one am really excited how the rivalry between Kevin and Sketty has been building before the race, and this is where scores are settled.
It looks like Adam is making a move. The gap to Ryan Wilson is now down to 0.1 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
Breaking news, folks. It's a challenging situation for Sketty. He's sandwiched between fierce competitors, David 0.2 seconds away and Kevin 0.1 seconds ahead. He'll need to stay sharp and find an opportunity to make a move.
Absolutely, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind are like windows of opportunity for Sketty. He'll need to assess the timing and make a move wisely to maximize his chances.
This is what racing is all about, folks. 3 fearless drivers pushing their machines to the absolute limit, inches apart. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
Stop the press. I don't think that's the fastest way around Willow Springs.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Ryan needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Look at that, Ryan Wilson is hot on the tail of Adam.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Can Wilson close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
It seems like Ryan Wilson is struggling. His last lap time was a bit off the pace of Adam.
Well, it doesn't look like David Zahn is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Kevin Lekmanski.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Zahn is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
David Zahn is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Kevin Lekmanski at the moment.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
This is a thrilling battle as Ryan Wilson edges closer to Adam in their fight for P1. Hold on a moment, that won't be ideal for Sketty.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 2 kph out there right now. Can Wilson close that 0.7 second gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Ryan Wilson is giving it his all, chasing down Adam in P1.
It seems like Ryan Wilson is pushing hard, currently on track to record his best lap so far this race.
Ryan appears to be pushing, hopefully he can keep it together.
And we're back, where the drivers are showing us some incredible skills.
Indeed, Hal. It's always exciting to see these skilled drivers operating such fantastic machines on amazing tracks.
Ryan Wilson is looking for a way to close that gap to Adam.
That's not a small gap, but Kevin Lekmanski has what it takes to challenge for the position.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Lekmanski tries to reel in Ryan.
Great effort from Kevin Lekmanski. His last lap was the best we have seen from him.
It's always good to see Lekmanski improving.
Looks like Kevin Lekmanski is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Stop the press. Great driving from Kevin Lekmanski, who has just gained a place and moved up to second.
Indeed, Taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
MkII is looking to close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass.
Every move counts now as Ryan Wilson works to reel in Kevin MkII and overtake for P2. It's certainly not going to plan for Ryan Wilson right now, who is struggling to keep up with Kevin MkII.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and David Zahn is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Ryan to even allow David to get a look in.
David certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Wilson.
The pressure is on as Ryan Wilson tries to catch up to Kevin MkII.
Hold on a moment. A great moment for Ryan Wilson, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
Yes, Wilson is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off.
Wilson is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder like a boss.
This is going to be a nail-biter. Simon of the Desert is defending for his life, but Kevin MkII is right there doing everything he can to force a mistake.
Simon is doing a great job of defending in the lead, and MkII is pushing hard to close the gap. It's an exciting race and it's not over yet.
Impressive stuff from Simon of the Desert, who has managed to pull away from Kevin MkII, leaving him choking in his exhaust fumes.
I love being here at Willow Springs. What an awesome place to be witnessing these titans of the track battle it out.
Indeed, Hal, what a magnificent sight and sound. I love listening to the roar of these engines. Let's just listen for a moment.
It may seem like Simon of the Desert is far behind, but Kevin MkII can't afford to let his guard down. One mistake could give Simon of the Desert an opening to catch up. Hold the phone. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Simon is not going to be happy about that.
The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Simon of the Desert in fifth chases after Kevin MkII.
Things are heating up as Simon of the Desert tries to close the gap to MkII. Things don't seem to be going David Zahn's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
Hold up, breaking info. Looks like that's a mistake from Kevin MkII. This could be costly.
Oops, MkII is going to be wishing that hadn't happened.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Simon of the Desert is trying his best to catch MkII. Simon of the Desert needs to find some speed, or maybe get more consistent. Ada. He's just put in a slower lap than MkII.
It will be interesting to see if MkII can keep outpacing Simon.
Simon of the Desert has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with MkII. I expect his only hope at this point is that MkII makes an error. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Ryan Wilson as there is a big gap ahead.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Adam is growing. It's now up to 4.1 seconds.
The drivers are really pushing their limits out there on the track.
It's like they're trying to outrun the laws of physics. But we all know that's impossible, or is it? I mean, we're a couple of computerized robots commenting on a race. Anything can happen.
Bad jokes notwithstanding, you have a point there. And speaking of pushing limits, these cars are breaking records left and right.
They're so fast, it's like they're breaking the sound barrier, or at least the speed limit.
I hope the police aren't watching. The gap between MkII and Simon of the Desert is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from MkII to even allow Simon to get a look in.
Simon certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from MkII.
It's not looking good for Simon of the Desert, who is still behind MkII and the gap is increasing. Fantastic racing on show here today, and it's not just the top drivers who are impressing us. Even the drivers at the back of the pack are putting up a good fight, battling it out for every position.
It's a testament to the level of competition at ASRL. Even the smallest mistake can cost you valuable seconds, or even lead to a crash. But these drivers are up to the challenge, and they're giving it their all. It's clear that ASRL really is the place to be for top-quality racing.
The delta between Simon of the Desert in 5th and Malero remains over a second, but Simon of the Desert is not letting up.
Anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Simon pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if he can do it again.
Things don't seem to be going Ryan Wilson's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
Ryan Wilson is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Adam to 3.5 seconds.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure David Zahn is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight. Good news for David Zahn, the gap to Ryan Wilson has decreased. It's now down to 6.2 seconds. David Zahn has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Ryan Wilson. I expect his only hope at this point is that Ryan makes an error.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Ryan Wilson as there is a big gap ahead.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Ryan Wilson has got his head down now, working those exits and apexes and setting his best lap time so far with a 1 minute.
He certainly looked to be in the flow, but may have to improve further to hold on to second.
What do you think, Ada? Are there any specific factors that could lead to a driver losing concentration during a race?
There are several factors: Hal. Fatigue, stress, changing track conditions, or even issues within the team can all contribute to a lapse in concentration. It's essential for drivers to stay mentally resilient and adapt to these challenges.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Sketty, who is currently in P7. A solid performance from Simon of the Desert, who is holding down 5th.
That's right, Simon can't afford to make any mistakes or let up. Every point counts in this championship.
Braking development. Oh, the frustration must be building for Simon of the Desert. He's just lost 5th position to Kevin Lekmansky and he's going to have to work hard to get it back.
Simon really needs to get his head in the game and start making some progress here before it's too late.
Well, it doesn't look like Simon of the Desert is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Kevin Lekmansky.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Simon is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
Ryan Wilson is pushing to maintain the lead, while David Zahn is working to close in and challenge for the position.
We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Zahn in third determined to catch up.
David Zahn appears to be losing ground on Ryan Wilson. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into the sweeper to get a good exit and gain some ground.
David needs to get it together to make a dent in that gap.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and David Zahn is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Ryan to even allow David to get a look in.
It's looking good for Kevin Lekmansky, sitting in 5th. A commanding performance from Kevin Lekmansky, who has increased his lead over Simon of the Desert, putting him firmly in his rear-view mirrors. Adam is placed first at the moment.
Definitely, but he can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers gunning for that position. and Adam has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
Looking at the lap times, Adam is not currently on pace with Ryan Wilson. Maybe he'll get a chance to see where to make up some time.
This race is getting even more intense. The drivers are pushing each other to the limit.
It's like they're playing a game of chicken, but with cars. And the winner gets to take home the checkered flag and bragging rights.
That's one way to put it. These drivers have to be in top physical and mental shape to compete at this level.
It's like they're training for the Olympics. And like you said, the mental fortitude required to stay focused and alert for the entire race is wild.
I think I need a nap just watching them. It's all about consistency for Adam, who is currently first.
Definitely Hal, but Adam can't afford to get complacent. This race is going to require focus and intensity.
A strong showing from Kevin MkII, who is currently 5th.
Yes, but Kevin has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
He's pulling away. Kevin MkII is increasing the gap to Simon of the Desert.
That's a really strong performance from Kevin. He's not giving Simon any chances to catch up.
Things are going according to plan for Kevin MkII, who is currently 5th. Malero has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with David Zahn. I expect his only hope at this point is that David makes an error.
It looks like we might get a battle between Malero and David Zahn. Things don't seem to be going Malero's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
It's looking good for David Zahn, sitting in 3rd. Oh, Ada. David Zahn has seen his lead over Malero shrink to 6.8 seconds.
This is a critical moment in the race for David. He'll need to find some extra speed and stay ahead of Malero.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Simon of the Desert, as there is a big gap ahead.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
The gap between Simon of the Desert and Kevin MkII is widening. It's now up to 11.5 seconds. The tension is building as Simon of the Desert trails behind Kevin MkII. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. It looks like Malero is pushing hard to catch up to David Zahn.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as Malero can close that gap.
It's not going to plan for Malero, who is trailing behind David Zahn, and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Malero needs to find a way to close the gap. Simon of the Desert is trying to catch up to Kevin MkII. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination.
It's game on now. Simon of the Desert has closed the gap to Kevin MkII. It's now down to 9.9 seconds.
I'm curious, Ada, can you tell us about any pre-race rituals you had when you were racing?
Of course, Hal. Before every race, I would listen to a specific playlist of songs to help me get in the zone. I also had a lucky pair of socks that I would wear during races. It may sound silly, but those little rituals helped me feel prepared and focused.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Simon of the Desert trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Kevin MkII. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Simon in P6 doing everything he can to catch up.
Malero is pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap to David Zahn. There's 20 minutes left in this session to make that happen.
This is where experience comes into play. Dave has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Malero is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
Malero is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with David Zahn at the moment. The gap between Adam and Ryan Wilson is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Adam to even allow Ryan to get a look in.
Ryan Wilson could be on a charge here, Ada. He's just put in a quicker lap than Adam.
We will have to see if Adam has got any answers for that.
Ryan Wilson has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Adam. I expect his only hope at this point is that Adam makes an error.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Ryan is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
Sketty will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
It's certainly not going to plan for Sketty right now, who is struggling to keep up with Simon of the Desert.
This is not ideal for Sketty, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
In your experience, Ada, what was the most important aspect of managing tire degradation during a race?
The most important aspect, Hal, was maintaining a good balance between pushing hard and conserving tires. Finding the sweet spot between aggression and tire preservation was key to optimizing race pace and strategy.
Things don't seem to be going Ryan Wilson's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
The delta between Simon of the Desert in 6th and Kevin Lekmansky remains over a second, but Simon of the Desert is not letting up.
It's going to be tough for Simon, as Kevin seems to have found his rhythm.
The gap between Simon of the Desert and Kevin Lekmansky is growing. It's now up to 50.1 seconds.
This is a tough situation for Simon. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
As we come into the final moments of this epic race, Adam is in the lead.
You got this, Adam. Keep it cool and bring it home.
What a win. This is a historic moment for Adam, who put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision.
You could feel the tension building throughout the race, but Adam remained focused and in control. That's what separates the winners from the pack.
Ryan Wilson takes second place with a fantastic race. Excellent focus from David Zahn to secure a fantastic third place on the podium.
Great job bringing it home.
Followed by Malero in 4th.
Simon of the Desert claims 6th.
Seventh is Sketty. Finishing 5th is Kevin Lekmansky. It's a beautifully calm day here at Willow Springs, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
Sketty will lead the way from pole position.
He can't let his guard down. The other drivers will be gunning for him.
Simon of the Desert has a great opportunity starting on the front row.
He can't let that advantage go to waste. He will need to stay focused and keep his eyes on the prize.
The third position belongs to MkII.
Another good start for the American driver.
Securing the fourth place is Malero.
Let's see what Malero can do.
Willow Springs International Motorsports Park, commonly referred to as Willow Springs, is located in Willow Springs near Rosamond, California, about 80 miles north of Los Angeles. It is the oldest permanent road course in the United States. Construction began in 1952, with the inaugural race held on November 23, 1953. The main track is a 2.5-mile-long road course that is unchanged from its original 1953 configuration. The elevation changes and high average speeds make it a favorite of many road racing drivers. There are 7 tracks at Willow Springs. The largest and most well-known is Willow Springs International Raceway, commonly referred to as Big Willow. Other racing facilities include the Streets of Willow, a 1.8-mile road course, the Horse Thief Mile, the Speedway at Willow Springs, a 1/4-mile paved oval, Willow Springs Kart Track, the Playpen, a 1/4-mile paved training track, and the Walt James Stadium, which includes a clay oval and paved oval. Efforts by fans resulted in the state of California declaring Willow Springs International Raceway as a California Point of Historical Interest in 1996. The moment we've been waiting for has arrived. The green flag is waving and the race is on.
The first lap can be chaotic, and avoiding any major incidents is key. Drivers need to be alert and ready to react to any sudden changes on the track.
Races are often more about maintaining consistency than having outright pace, but it doesn't hurt to have a little good luck every now and then.
Seems like Malero got bogged down at the start, and has already lost positions. Ada.
Malero is going to be cursing like Sonoda after losing positions, I'm sure of that. How?
The pressure is on when the field is this tightly packed. Maintaining just enough aggression to hold off their rivals without pushing too hard will help these drivers keep it clean. Every lap is an opportunity for MkII to learn just a little bit more to shave a few tenths or hundredths off his times. The tensions are high, and no one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap.
Having started in P6, Ryan Wilson will be hoping for a good result in this race. It's a tale of 2 drivers right now, with Simon of the Desert gaining places and MkII losing them.
Absolutely. Simon is showing great pace and determination, but he can't get too confident. There are still plenty of challenges ahead.
The drivers have been working hard to come up with the perfect race strategy. They've been looking at the weather, the track conditions, and the performance of their cars.
Now it's time to put that strategy into action and see if it pays off.
Rising to the occasion and claiming victory would help to cement Malero's legendary status.
Wow, MkII is really pushing hard to catch up to Simon of the Desert. Breaking news, folks. I don't think that's the fastest way around Willow Springs.
Willow Springs is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
Can Kevin close up enough for a pass? I don't see it personally.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Simon of the Desert is razor thin as they vie for third in this nail-biting contest. Breaking development. A brilliant maneuver from Ryan Wilson, who has just moved up the field.
It looks like Wilson wants to take a cheeky peek up the inside.
Simon of the Desert is holding fourth, but David Zahn is right on his tail.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for David to make up that gap, especially with Simon defending so well.
Some great driving from Simon of the Desert, who has increased his lead over David Zahn and is starting to put some distance between them.
Ryan Wilson is running third, and trying to catch Kevin Lekmanski.
Ryan Wilson is on a charge, his split time shows he's upped his pace. It looks like Kevin Lekmanski is in control. He's ahead of Ryan Wilson by over a second, and it doesn't look like he's going to be challenged anytime soon.
Excellent work from Kevin Lekmanski, who has managed to increase his lead over Ryan Wilson.
Agreed, Hal. Superb driving there. If they keep this up, this race should be a real thrill ride.
Well, it looks like we have a bit of a traffic jam on the track.
It's like rush hour out there. I mean, I know we're in a race, but can't we all just get along?
Hold on a moment. Superb driving from Kevin Lekmanski, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
You can wish all you want, but I don't think that's how racing works, Ada. These drivers are here to win, and they'll do whatever it takes to get ahead.
I guess you're right, but wouldn't it be great if they all just stopped for high fives and fist bumps?
This is where the race gets really interesting. Ryan Wilson is closing in on Kevin Lekmanski. It's not looking good for Ryan Wilson, who is still behind Kevin Lekmanski, and the gap is increasing.
This is where the mental toughness of Wilson comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
You know, Ada, as a former racing driver yourself, can you give us some insights into what goes through a driver's mind during these quieter moments in a race?
Sure, Hal. During these moments, drivers often take the opportunity to assess their race strategy, monitor their car's performance, and plan their next move. It's all about staying focused and finding the right time to strike.
We're starting to see who really has the pace now in this race, as David Zahn is starting to climb all over the back of Simon of the Desert. Any closer and he may need to pop the boot.
You're right, Simon in fourth needs to stay cool under pressure and make every move count. But Zahn is a fierce competitor, and won't give up without a fight.
The pressure is on as David Zahn works on catching up to Simon of the Desert.
The gap is 0.7 seconds now. Zahn is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Simon.
The gap between David Zahn and Simon of the Desert is getting smaller. If everything goes as planned, this is going to be a race for the ages.
The drivers are executing their strategies to perfection, making the most of every opportunity. This is what top-level racing is all about.
Ryan Wilson is staying focused while chasing Kevin Lekmanski in P1.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Ryan should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Kevin.
Oh, this is getting intense. Simon of the Desert is just a few car lengths behind David Zahn.
It looks like Simon of the Desert is making a move. The gap to David Zahn is now down to 0.4 seconds.
Ryan Wilson is on a mission, chasing Kevin Lekmanski, who's currently got a comfortable lead.
Wilson needs to focus to make up that gap to Lekmanski.
Breaking update. That won't be ideal for Sketty.
The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this.
You can feel the intensity in the air. The slightest mistake could cost either of them valuable time, and the position.
It seems like Simon of the Desert is pushing hard, currently on track to record his best lap so far this race.
The track conditions are looking good here today. The drivers will be able to push the cars to the limit, and it's going to make for some exciting racing.
Ryan Wilson is running second, and trying to keep up with Kevin Lekmanski.
The gap between them is just over 0.6 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
The race is really heating up. Simon of the Desert is hunting down David Zahn with everything he's got.
The racing is getting tight between Simon and Dave as they battle for P3.
No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Ryan Wilson seems to be putting the pressure on Kevin Lekmanski.
If Ryan gets too close, he might end up taking the paint off.
Simon of the Desert is on a mission, chasing David Zahn, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Ryan Wilson wants to get into Kevin Lekmanski's slipstream.
I might have said this before, but dog, bone, you know the rest.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
The mental game is just as important here. Simon must keep his cool while putting pressure on Dave.
Simon of the Desert appears to be losing ground on David Zahn. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into the Omega to get a good exit and gain some ground.
The pursuit is on. Malero is closing the gap on Simon of the Desert, determined to claim P4.
The gap between Malero and Simon of the Desert is widening. It's now up to 0.6 seconds.
Ryan Wilson is giving it his all, chasing down Kevin Lekmanski in P1.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
Simon of the Desert has just put in a faster lap than David Zahn, so that's going to give him something to worry about. Braking development. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
As we enjoy seeing these titans of the track battle it out, let's not forget about the pit crews. Those guys and girls are like a well-oiled machine themselves.
Absolutely, they're the unsung heroes of the racing world. But you know what they say, behind every great driver is an even greater pit crew.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Simon of the Desert is chasing David Zahn in P3.
Ryan Wilson is giving it his all, chasing down Kevin Lekmanski in P1.
Every move counts now as Simon of the Desert works to reel in David Zahn and overtake for P3.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
Looks like Malero is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
Look at that, Ryan Wilson is hot on the tail of Kevin Lekmanski. It seems like Ryan Wilson has got the bit between his teeth, improving on Kevin Lekmanski's lap time there. Ada, how do racing drivers like yourself train to maintain concentration for long periods of time?
Mental training is a huge part of a driver's preparation, Hal. Techniques like meditation, visualization, and working with sports psychologists can help drivers build their focus and mental endurance for a race.
The pursuit is on. Ryan Wilson is working on that gap to Kevin Lekmanski, determined to claim P1.
It's a game of strategy now as Wilson hunts down Lekmanski.
The battle for P4 is heating up as Simon of the Desert tries to catch Malero in P4.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Simon needs to be careful not to overdo it.
It's not going to plan for Simon of the Desert, who is trailing behind Malero when the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Malero is closing in on David Zahn.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Malero is really walking that fine line.
Ryan Wilson is running second, and trying to catch Kevin Lekmanski. It's certainly not going to plan for Ryan Wilson right now, who is struggling to keep up with Kevin Lekmanski.
This is a frustrating situation for Wilson, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Lekmanski.
The pressure is on as Malero tries to catch up to David Zahn.
Good news for Malero, the gap to David Zahn has decreased. It's now down to 0.2 seconds.
Exactly what Malero needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Dave.
The race is really heating up. Ryan Wilson is hunting down Kevin Lekmanski with everything he's got.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Wilson needs to stay patient and wait for Lekmanski to make a mistake.
We're watching David Zahn in fourth, and is currently being hounded by Simon of the Desert with a gap of just 0.2 seconds.
This is a tight race and Dave is doing a great job of holding him off. It will be interesting to see if Simon can make a move.
Ryan Wilson is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
The gap between them is now just over 0.3 seconds.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Simon needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Things are heating up as Ryan Wilson tries to close the gap to Kevin Lekmanski. It looks like we might get a battle between Ryan Wilson and Kevin Lekmanski.
Simon of the Desert is trying his best to catch David Zahn.
No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Simon of the Desert is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with David Zahn at the moment.
It's not over yet, but Simon needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Zahn.
We often hear drivers complaining about tire graining. Ada, can you explain what that means and how it affects car handling?
Graining occurs when small rubber particles roll up on the tire's surface, reducing grip and negatively affecting handling. It usually happens when the tires are not in their optimal temperature window or when a driver is pushing too hard on a cold or overworked tire.
Hold on a second. Looks like that's a mistake from Simon of the Desert. This could be costly.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Kevin Lekmanski is growing. It's now up to 0.4 seconds. The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Adam in sixth chases after Simon of the Desert.
We know Simon isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Adam is going to have to take it.
This is a thrilling battle as Ryan Wilson edges closer to Kevin Lekmanski in their fight for P1.
Ryan needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Lekmanski.
Ryan Wilson could be on a charge here, Ada. He's just put in a quicker lap than Kevin Lekmanski.
The question now is, can Lekmanski respond to that and pick up the pace? I'm not so sure.
Kevin Lekmanski is having to make that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder as wide as possible to try and keep Ryan Wilson behind him.
It seems like Kevin Lekmanski is struggling. His last lap time was a bit off the pace of Ryan Wilson.
Hopefully Lekmanski can find some of that missing time and get it back.
Oh, this is getting intense. Ryan Wilson is just a few car lengths behind Kevin Lekmanski.
It looks like Kevin Lekmanski is pulling away from Ryan Wilson. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Castrol Corner.
Wilson needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way. If he can close the gap down, he may be able to bring the fight to Lekmanski.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Ryan Wilson is chasing Kevin Lekmanski in P1.
It's a game of strategy now as Wilson hunts down Lekmanski.
Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
A solid performance from Malero, who is holding down third.
Absolutely, and he'll need to keep driving with determination to stay in that position.
Things are heating up as Ryan Wilson closes in on Kevin Lekmanski. The gap between them is down to practically nothing.
These two are putting on a masterclass in precision driving. Every turn, every acceleration, calculated to perfection.
Ryan Wilson has just put in a faster lap than Kevin Lekmanski, so that's going to give him something to worry about. It's all about consistency for Simon of the Desert, who is currently 5th.
Definitely, but he can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers gunning for that position, and Simon has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
Impressive stuff from Simon of the Desert, who has managed to pull away from Adam, leaving him choking in his exhaust fumes.
Ryan Wilson is giving it his all, chasing down Kevin Lekmanski in P1.
This is where every inch counts. Ryan is pushing hard to close the gap on Lekmanski.
Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Ryan Wilson is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Kevin Lekmanski to 0.3 seconds.
That's not a small gap, but Adam has what it takes to challenge for the position. Look at that, Ryan Wilson is hot on the tail of Kevin Lekmanski.
Ryan Wilson needs to find some speed, or maybe get more consistent. He's just put in a slower lap than Kevin Lekmanski.
It will be interesting to see if Lekmanski can keep outpacing Ryan.
So, considering the high speeds and split-second decision-making involved in racing, what's the impact of even a minor lapse in concentration?
A minor lapse in concentration can have significant consequences. How? It could lead to an off-track excursion, a loss of position, or even a collision. That's why it's crucial for drivers to stay focused and alert throughout the race.
The battle for P1 is heating up as Ryan Wilson tries to catch Kevin Lekmanski in P1. David Zahn is pushing to maintain the lead, while Simon of the Desert is working to close in and challenge for the position. Looks like Ryan Wilson is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
With just 0.4 seconds between them, Ryan will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Kevin Lekmanski is getting smaller. These drivers are battling hard for this position, each one trying to outsmart and outmaneuver the other.
That's right, Wilson is determined to pass Lekmanski and secure a higher position.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for David Zahn, who is currently in P4.
Malero is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace.
Ryan Wilson is on a mission, chasing Kevin Lekmansky, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Kevin Lekmansky is widening. It's now up to 0.8 seconds.
The tension is building as Simon of the Desert trails behind David Zahn. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. It's not going to plan for Simon of the Desert, who is trailing behind David Zahn, and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
Simon needs to get it together to make a dent in that gap.
It's a brilliant day for racing, and the drivers are putting on a show.
Absolutely. What a great race we are witnessing today. These drivers are giving it their all, and it's a thrill to watch them compete at this level.
They're really pushing themselves and their machines to the limit, and it's paying off with some incredible driving.
It's a pleasure to be here today, Hal. You really can't beat the excitement of a good race, especially one as competitive as this.
Ryan Wilson has the pedal to the metal, chasing Kevin Lekmansky.
If you don't push the boundaries, you will never know where they are.
Malero is placed third at the moment.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Ryan Wilson is closing in on Kevin Lekmansky.
It looks like Ryan Wilson is making a move. The gap to Kevin Lekmansky is now down to 0.1 seconds.
It's like Kevin Lekmansky has saved all his energy for this final stretch.
Kevin is not leaving anything on the table.
I'm sure Ryan Wilson in first is starting to notice Kevin Lekmansky is right on his tail, and is still closing the gap.
Yeah, I really can't see him holding on to this place for much longer.
Stop the press. A tough moment for Ryan Wilson, who has just lost a place, now in second.
And it's a checkered flag for Kevin Lekmansky, who crosses the finish line with a commanding victory. What a phenomenal performance, absolutely dominant today.
That was a true masterclass in driving from Kevin. You could see him making split-second decisions with total confidence, and it really paid off. What a performance.
A nail-biting finish, but Malero claims second place. Well done to Ryan Wilson for securing third place on the podium.
Fourth sees David Zahn. Taking fifth is Simon of the Desert.